All right, guys. So today we are so excited to have our friend Debbie Howard with us, and I'm going to tell you right now, she has quite the confession. She'll be sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly with respect to caregiving. And I know we can all relate to that. We all have our ups and downs. So, like us, Debbie has been a caregiver, but she's honestly so much more. I mean, could be like a 10-hour podcast. Don't worry, folks. We're going to keep it. We're going to keep it under control. So, Jay, why don't you tell us a bit about our amazing sister in caregiving?
Yeah, I love Debbie's story because I'd never get to really say these things. Debbie's caregiving story with her mother began in Japan.
Ooh, and then what happened?
It's like one of those murder mysteries, like it's far off land. So, and her story did begin in Japan, and that's where she was running her own company. That's where she got the news, though, that her mom had stage 4 cancer. And so she got that call. But she says, little did I know the havoc that was about to be wreaked on my life when I got that call. And I know we've all been through that when you get a call like that. For 12 months, she, her mom, and her 2 sisters rallied together and made it through. And they made that 12 months a really good time. But after the first year, both of her sisters, who were not self-employed, they ran out of family medical leave.
Wait, Jay, don't tell it all away.
Well, I'm just getting a really
telling all the
short.
And Lord, JJ's confessing, Emily.
I'm sorry.
She is.
I'm sorry. So Debbie, they decided that Debbie went ahead and she moved back to South Carolina.
What?
And I know she ran her business. Don't tell anybody, from the same table that she did she ate third grade, her dinner at, from the third grade. She says it was the hardest 6 months of her life. And that really is, that's where her whole story began. She said they had a good plan, but again, it was hard. It was all hard. Her caregiving experience inspired her, though, to become an advocate for family caregivers. Debbie is a published author. She has written The Caregiving Journey, about information, guidance, and inspiration. And most recently, The Caregiving Crisis, what is the cost to your business and how you can fix it. She says part of her piece comes from sharing her experience to help others, other caregivers and caregivers to be, which we know that we all will be. We are so excited to have Debbie because
Yay, Debbie! Welcome.
What? She is going to
So
share
nice to be
this.
here.
We're giving her an opportunity to share because we know that sharing changes lives. So Debbie, I'm turning the floor over to you because Natalie says I shared way too much.
You confess more, Debbie, but I know Debbie's got more.
That's
so Debbie, you were there in Japan, but tell us a little bit about that background,
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here today. And I love the sharing changes lives because I really believe that. And I think the more we all talk about our experiences, even the bad parts, it helps other people to have permission to feel certain ways, to try different things, to get through it, hopefully, just a little better. So, thank you so much for all that you're doing. And I actually come from another 3-sister triplet group. So I'm really so intrigued and enchanted by all of you and what you're doing. I had been living and working in Japan for 24 years when I heard that my mom had been diagnosed. And, I was running my own market research company. So that's kind of like running a small ad agency, basically. And I say that because it's crazy, right? Like if anyone would know a crazy work experience, it would be me. I'm running a 12 to 15 person, fully extended small consultancy. I'm working day in and day out with major Fortune 500 clients, bringing stuff to Japan. I'm dealing with the complexities of 2 languages, not just doing that marketing and advertising and market research in 1 language, but doing it in 2 languages and 2 cultures. So, I'm thinking I'm pretty tough, right? I'm pretty game for whatever you got to throw at me. And I got to tell you, the thing with my mom was just the the thing that almost broke all of us.
Wow.
It was so hard on so many levels. And it starts with the fact that you're going to lose your mom, right? Like that's the underlying hard part of all of this, is that we know it's not going to be good. And we try to make it as good as we can. And I know that's not exactly grammatically correct.
Yeah.
we
It's
try.
okay.
We're Southern. We talk good.
I know. I was so happy I could talk Southern this morning. We try to do the best job we can. Of course we do, but it's really, really difficult. And I was not ready for that, being a marketing person who runs around, running around, going to meetings. I'm doing all the things we all do in business without thinking about really not much about humanity, maybe a little bit more these days, but work is work, and you kind of get into it, and you kind of forget about the hard parts of life that really require a lot more heart.
So you are living in Japan. Where are your other sisters living?
My one sister lived in South Carolina, within 1 hour of my mom.
Okay.
And the little sister lived in Texas, where I live now.
And I remember you saying that it was like, Texas might as well have been Japan.
Texas might as well have been Japan. And really, in fact, I'm glad you mentioned that, Natalie, because if you live more than 1 hour away, you might as well be in Japan. Because you've got to take 4 to 8 hours. It would take me about, I think I had it down to right at 18 hours door to door.
Wow.
But that's a long time when somebody has an emergency or something. I mean, you really, the only reason we made it through the first year was because my middle sister was living right there close by. And that made such a difference. But even in the end, I started flying back and forth much more frequently, and staying longer, obviously, trying to maximize those expensive long trips. But then my younger sister would fly in to spot me, so we would both spot the middle sister as we went along. But it was hard. It was hard on the middle sister. I'm not saying their names on purpose, because
no, it's fine.
I'm under social media rules.
We respect
totally
that.
right. Yeah.
So it was really hard on the middle sister, who was still working full time at that time, and had 2 teenage daughters and a husband who was quite ill. And so she did her best, and she did a really good job. And she took mom to the doctor's appointments and was there. She would stop, several times a week to check in and make sure everything was okay. But, that went okay. And I kind of laugh when I say some things, but I really do believe you have to keep your sense of humor or you will die.
Amen.
As Southerners, we can,
we can about make fun of anything.
And I just was so shocked by how fast the family medical leave time went. For one sister who worked for a hospital system, and a big hospital system, a statewide, Carolina hospital system, and that should have better benefits, and longer benefits. And my other sister worked for the federal government. So,
wow.
I'm sorry, in 1 year of what I call light caregiving, someone with chemo, and there's where the joke is, because that is not light or fun in any way, right? But in the realm of caregiving, that's pretty light caregiving in my book. And both of their FMLA benefits were gone after 1 year, and that was not even full-time caregiving. That was just spot, doing the best you can kind of thing. So I was really shocked by that, because I think most of us think that there's going to be some kind of safety net there for us. But there is not much of a net at all for any of us.
I would agree.
I'll stop
with that.
now. And
No, I would agree with that.
So, and I guess leaving their jobs full time, that was not an option. Like it was, you know, to lose that type of income, which for most of us is not, just to say, okay, well, I'm just going to leave my job. Was that, you know, an option?
Well, no, not really, because one of them is single, an aging single woman.
Yeah.
No, she cannot quit her job.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the middle one had a family, as I mentioned.
Exactly.
She could not quit her job, working out her 40-year, you know, thing to retirement and everything. I was 54 at the time, so the middle sister was 50 and the younger was 48. So no, 50. Wait, 50, 52, 54. Sorry.
Oh, you guys are 2 years like us too.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, it's good. We were all really close, and it's really fun as we get older too.
Yes.
So how did it? So I want to go a different way. How did it impact your all's relationship? Because if you said you're really close, because we're like thick as thieves, but we will have words with one another. How did it impact your relationship? And we talked with somebody. We talked with somebody just yesterday. We were being interviewed, and they were like, "Well, you know, how does it damage your relationship?" And I'm like, "It's not damage for us, but we're also tight." So how about you ladies?
We are very, very tight, and we are thick as thieves. And I believe that one of the reasons we're really close is because our parents were divorced when we were in our teens, and we had to stick together. And it made us stick together even when we might have been fighting as teenagers. But we've always been close. And so thank goodness we went into this situation close like that, because it was hard even for us being close and having to talk about the things that we have to talk about when we're caregiving and sharing caregiving experiences and duties. It is really, really tough. So I was the only one with the wherewithal to say, okay, I'm going to go do it, right? Because they could not, and I really couldn't myself, because you can imagine running a small consultancy. If you are not working, you are not making money, you are not investing in making money in the future. And
You're
that's
done.
a scary, scary thought. But honestly, my mother could not make it on her own anymore. It was not possible. And we saw that it wasn't safe for her to be by herself. And who would want to be by themselves in the end of their days, you know? So
correct.
We just we talked about it. It wasn't like, who's going to do it? It was never like that. I basically said, I'm going home, right? I'm going to go do that. And I had a really capable person in Tokyo. She was literally, I believe, 29 years old when I put her in charge of my company. And flew back home. It worked okay. She was great, and we all got through it. And I thank her to this day. I forgot where I was going with that about we had a few fights. Okay, we did have a few words. We don't call them fights or
they're words.
Arguments. They're discussions,
words. Yes,
right? Like we had a discussion.
The words.
But you know, it's very hard. Like I think, you know, there were times when two of us would be closer than the other, and you know, we would triangulate off each other. You know, we could see some of those psychological weird things happening, and we tried our best. I think we've had to work on things in the aftermath of my mom passing, because I think it's natural for things to come up. Like you go back to your childhood kind of energy, whatever that was, because you probably haven't been living together in the same place for a long time. So suddenly you're thrown back into, you know, being 10 or 12, even worse. Like I'd rather be 10 than 12, anything in the teens. I don't want to be again. But we didn't really, we had a few little things while it was going on. I would say we might have had to work a little harder afterwards. Just to kind of get back to where we were, because we'll never be back quite that way without mom there.
Yeah.
But we have worked, I'd say, pretty hard at that. And
Yeah.
some of the little things that happened that were silly, but that I know you will love, are that some sisters do different things with the mom than the other sisters, right?
Exactly.
And my little sister used to give my mother a foot rub when she was there with essential oils and everything, and that was great. And she had always given my mother foot rubs from the get-go, right? And I never had, never. And I don't like giving foot rubs. And so my little sister, I like getting foot rubs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, that is
Giving them.
facts. That is for facts.
So she'd fly in. I'm there full time at this time.
Yeah.
And you know how it is when you're the full-time caregiver, and I know, Emily, you can know this, you have everything organized, right? The way you need it.
Oh, absolutely.
For you and for your mom, right? And
Yes.
and there's really little things that we don't even think about. It could be as simple as washing the dishes every time, not leaving dishes in the sink. It could be as simple as a daily routine.
All right.
You know, like some
Yes.
people get on up and get going, and other people's loll around
Yeah.
and make more work for the caregiver who's there all the time.
Yes.
You know, there could be something like that happening. Or somebody doesn't wash their dishes as much as I do.
Yo, sister.
I respect that.
The foot rub thing drove me up the wall, because there I am, the 24/7 do everything. And then my little sister came in. She's got a week, right? So she can afford to be 24/7, you know, on my mom, you know, really helping her and being really nice to her, you know, in a way that maybe I could not be every single day and every single hour. And then while my sister's giving her the bath rub in there, my mom says, "Hey, Debbie, why don't you come in here and see what she's doing? It would be really good if you could learn how to do this."
Oh my goodness.
That
would make my head explode.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I just went, no, I'm not doing that, right? Is this not enough? Like cleaning, cooking, shopping, doing everything else, you know, really? And anyway, there were little things like that, right? And I couldn't really say, I didn't want to rob my little sister of her pleasure and her ability to give what she could give, right? Because
absolutely,
she felt bad because she couldn't be there all the time. So, you know, then you would overcompensate when you get there, because you want to make the most of that time. Anyway, there were a few moments there, but I tell you what, I am so proud of us, and really so grateful that we all got along so well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you guys are there and you're making it through. So you've moved in. So what's next? Like, what's the progression? Like, how are you guys making it through?
Well, it's kind of like the first year of Caregiving Light with the chemo, which is not Caregiving Light at all. Again, that was really a cakewalk compared to the last 6 months. And even the first 3 months of the last 6 months were a cakewalk compared to those last 3 months. So everything starts getting harder and getting more involved and more challenging. Mom started having more trouble at night, you know, with coughing attacks and things like that. And so then that affects my sleep, and her sleep too. But I'm talking about the caregiver here. And honestly, you know, I do care about the care receiver. It's not that I only care about the caregiver, but if the caregiver doesn't find a way to stay whole, it all goes down, right? The whole show goes down. So I was really kind of militant about the self-care thing. When I was a caregiver. And part of that was because I worked in such a high pressure industry anyway, in marketing and advertising, where you really can't get sick.
Right.
You can't get sick. And living in Japan for 24 years, our rule was don't get sick.
Yeah.
Because if you did get sick, it was this whole other thing of going to a doctor in another language and getting information that you may not trust as much because you can't understand it. It's in broken English. I'm not saying it's bad care. I'm saying it's really not fun being sick and not in your own language.
Yeah.
And so we used to say, just don't get sick. And really, as a caregiver, you can't get sick.
Yeah.
I used to, I loved going to Walgreens. That was one of my favorite field trips. Like if mom ever said, you need to go to Walgreens and get something, I'd be like, yeah, I get to go to Walgreens. And I would go.
Thank you, Walgreens, if you would like to sponsor. Thank you.
Well, yes,
so that was self-care, Walgreens. We got that.
Trader Joe's was mine. I got no shame.
I was doing research while I was there. I'm looking at all what are the baby boomers using, but I would really was interested to see, what all they had there. And so I turned it into a fun thing, turned it into a field trip. Let's see. I forgot where I was going there. Ladies.
Oh, no, with self-care, though, because I remember you telling us about going around the block and walking. So,
yes.
So how about a little bit about that and getting because I think you had your mom, didn't you tell us about you were going around? So tell a little bit about that, because this is actually really cool.
Okay, well, I know where I was going with the other thing about Walgreens.
Sure, go right ahead.
I found this gargle stuff, this like salt water in a little package, and it had like lavender flavor. So that was what I used to keep myself. If I felt I had a sniffle or any kind of sore throat, I would nip it in the bud, really fast, trying to keep myself well.
Right.
And I also did my exercises, including the walking, and in the early days, I think I had a yoga class or two, but that all fell off the blocks, pretty fast. And it kind of started getting to where I would do band workouts on the floor while we were watching TV at night, because at least I could get my band workouts in. And mom she didn't want me to leave, even if there was a helper there. Because she was scared. And so I had to sort of my life became closed in as well. As her life became more closed in, so did mine. And Emily, I know you can appreciate that. And
absolutely.
You have to find ways that you can have your life within that life. And it's not so easy. I was so fortunate because we had a separate guest room in my mom's house. She had a little condo in a 55 and over community. So it was really safe and lovely surroundings. I had my own room, my own bathroom. I had my own little desk in there late at night. I could talk to Tokyo. I could operate fairly well. One day I wanted to take my walk, and my walk happened to be with one of my mom's friends, who I know she was jealous that I was getting to be with her friend and getting to be out walking with her friend and getting to be out walking at all, right? Doing anything. Well, she was laid up in bed and really couldn't go very far, from her bed to her bathroom pretty much. Yeah. And I wanted to go on my walk. The CNA was there. The paid helper was there. She came 5 mornings a week. That was another blessing we had. We had somebody 8 to noon every day, Monday to Friday. The weekends showed us how important that was, actually. That was really, really helpful. And I wanted to go on my walk. And the deal had been, when I first went back from Tokyo, that I would have those 4 hours every morning to work, because my mother did not want my business to be handicapped, though we both knew that it was getting handicapped while we're trying not to handicap it. But anyway, I wanted to go on my walk, and she said, I don't want you to go. And I said, I really need a walk. Now, you know how bad it was at this point if my mother's saying, I don't want you to go, because I think this would have been about, it could have been 5 or 6 weeks before she passed away. It was getting near the end. And it was getting really intense. And I really needed the walk, actually.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And it wasn't a long walk. It wasn't like a 2-hour walk. It was like a 30-minute, power walk around the condo, facility, the residence. So, anyway, my mother and I had words because I basically said, the helpers here, I used the helper's name, obviously. I don't see what the problem is. I'm going. And boy, was she mad at me, my mother. And I won't tell you what the care person, the professional said to me, that I should not talk to my mother that way.
Ooh.
I know. And I will not tell you what I told her.
Oh, yes. We've had some
Wow.
individuals try to inform our mom about her medications.
Yeah.
And we thought that was very sweet since they didn't remotely have a medical degree.
Yeah.
Don't tell our mom about her medications,
Yeah.
please. But thank you.
Oh my goodness. That was
Yeah.
like family friends or something.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
no.
it was a caregiver. The very
Yeah.
first one we have, she comes in and is so nice and sweet, but then she starts, I felt like it was a selling mechanism that she did about herbs and all this different stuff. And that's the last thing you want to do with a Parkinson's patient is mess with meds and the herbs and all that stuff.
Absolutely not.
So unfortunately, we did not ask her back.
They're like,
Well, this is what happens, right? You have to weed
Mhm.
through them.
Yes,
and then-
absolutely.
And I love professional caregivers. I am not absolutely not trashing on professional
No.
caregivers. We love and need them. We had a fabulous hospice team. I want to make
Mhm.
sure to say that out loud
mhm.
because a lot of people have mixed emotions about hospice, but we had a
Absolutely.
fabulous experience. And I think everybody is trying to help as best they can.
Mhm.
We had some medications incidents as well, because my mother wanted to minimize medication as much as possible.
Yeah.
And that's very hard when I think the system actually pushes more meds on you than you
Yes.
might. It's hard to say whether you
Yes.
need them or not. I'm not a medical doctor. I am
Right.
always saying that because I'm always giving advice, but then I'm given the caveat as well. But yeah, the meds are it's really scary. We had a situation where the hospice folks felt my mom needed that she was getting really anxious and agitated, and that she needed Ativan. And
Mhm.
my mother was like, I don't want anything. She was really like adamant about it.
Yeah.
And I said, do not give her anything.
Right.
Yeah.
This is my mother agitated because she's dying. This is
Yeah.
not like, I know her, and leave her alone.
Yeah.
And when I left at one point in this 6 months, one of my other sisters and the caregiver decided to slip her a half an Ativan or something.
Mm.
And my mother's slate was so clean. She knew it right away.
Wow.
She knew it right away. And then she refused to eat after that because she didn't trust them.
It's about
Oh.
control.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's fair, Natalie, to think about that and think about how we all want control of our lives.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And I don't want somebody doing that to me.
Mm-mm.
And then I think about that, and as you're experiencing whatever it is you're experiencing as a care receiver, your own world is slowly but surely getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
And you know
Mhm.
what's happening.
Yeah.
You try to keep a cheerful countenance, and you try to be nice and everything else, but you still are going through it a
Yeah.
heck of a lot.
Yeah.
And control issues for sure. And rightly so. I felt like I was an agent to help my mother do it the way she wanted to do
Right.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely an advocate.
Ultimately, it's her life. And we as caregivers can't tell them what to do. They still have that free will. So
Yeah.
sometimes if mom does not want to take a medication, we really have to talk through it. And if it's something she doesn't honestly need, then she makes that decision because she ultimately decides what goes in her mouth.
Well, I'm really happy to hear you say that because I feel that way. And I helped my mom titrate her drugs. And
Mhm.
I had a book coach tell me one time, don't say that. You're not supposed, you can't do that. You're not a doctor. I said, I don't know who's going to come in my house now and say anything about it. Right.
That's exactly right.
Like actually, I think it's a human being's right to titrate their own drugs if they want to, right? If they
I
can,
agree.
and get somebody to help you if you can. But I'm a little strong on that point. So
Yeah.
again, I am
That's
not a
okay. That's your
doctor.
Well, we
yeah.
always did confer with her neurologist before we made any, decisions in that matter. But the neurologist, like, if she won't take it, she won't take it. You can't force her. So, I mean,
It's
ultimately,
true.
it's her decision, and we have to, respect that as caregivers.
Yeah.
It's true. And you've got a difficult situation with many different conditions, right? Like with
Right.
Parkinson's, that's really different than opioids for
Correct.
treating
Right.
any cancer situation. So this
Right.
is another thing that I know you guys always talk about as well. Like there are so many different caregiving situations.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think that's why it's one reason why it's so hard for our society to get a grip on it, right?
Mhm.
Because
Right.
there's not a good one answer. There's not one answer, one shoe fits all, one size fits all. There's just not.
Right.
It's totally true. It's
Right.
totally true. And everybody's journey is their own. I mean, because you can have a compliant person in the sense, I don't want to say compliant because I don't like that word. You can have an individual who is not difficult they're going through their journey. Everybody's going to feel all their emotions and feelings. And some people, we've talked with some people where their parent was very resolved with it, and other people are unsettled about death and dying. And then you have and then you have an illness that has, what's the prognosis? Is the prognosis good? But does that mean that if that experience is any less than someone who has a bad prognosis? Because
Right.
even with a good prognosis, what we've learned is the side effects. Jason would tell you his side effects were worse than any treatment he received, and he continues, and he'll have those the rest of his life.
Gosh.
And so it's like, everybody has their own, and you try to respect that. And that
You
was
have to.
it's right. And so I can remember arguing with him to say, you've got to eat though. Otherwise it's a feeding tube. But ultimately I couldn't make him eat.
Yeah.
And
Well,
he was going to
sometimes-
choose or not.
Well, sometimes, the eating thing, Natalie, is such a great point, right? Like, I think sometimes my mom didn't feel well enough to eat. You know what I'm saying? She could eat one bite, she'd eat what she could, but then she couldn't eat anymore. And we could see her losing weight.
Yeah.
I saw my mother go from about 160 to, I think at the end, it was 78.
Oh, goodness.
It was like torture watching it. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there was nothing we could do. Like we could see her losing several pounds a week.
Yeah.
We could, and there was a point where that wasn't true, right? But once it started, it just kept going, and there was nothing we could do. We tried Ensure, we tried fried chicken livers.
You know what? We try everything when we were trying to get Jason to be able to eat, because he had a mouth cancer. And so that's what was so hard, is that, and he had lost the taste, everything was so bad. And so you just we're every restaurant. And that's why I went to the grocery store every day, because we just try something different. And if he only took one bite, it would be like, whatever. And then I would just go throw it down the trash chute. And I'd be like, that was that fault. I didn't make it, so it didn't count.
Yeah, not today.
Yeah.
Maybe
And it's
tomorrow.
okay.
Yeah.
It's totally
tomorrow
okay.
It'll work.
Yes.
You have to be really flexible. Yeah.
Hey, ladies, I need to interrupt for just a second to share about the Sisterhood membership. It's basically a sale every day. And the best part, it's free. Here's the details. We're partnering with our friends at Benefit Hub and other care partners to save you money. With over 200,000 participating companies across the U.S. and abroad, you'll find discounts at your favorite local stores, huge savings on vacations, amazing deals on home, auto, and supplemental insurances, and everything in between. Go to confessionsofareluctantcaregiver.com to sign up, and then definitely tell your friends about it. They can join too. Trust me, there's a discount for everyone. And don't forget, It's free. Okay, back to confessing.
Yeah.
So I'll say this. So, because I know I want to make sure that we hit our sister questions. I forgot to mention that we do sister questions at the end, because I think there's so much more. But I think after this experience with your mom, what was life like after? What's the after? Because I know how it was for me. What was it like for you and your sisters, you think?
Well, it is really important to talk about this part of it, because there is an after if you're lucky. If you're lucky, there is an after. I think we all worry about being shells of ourselves at the end, right? And I'm talking about we as caregivers. At the time, I did not know to worry about that. I was just trying to get through it. But honest to God, now I know. And I was pretty much a shell for, I'm going to say 5 years.
Wow.
And part of that was because I went right from the caregiving and losing mom to trying to save my business, which was completely handicapped. And when my mom passed away, it was the global financial meltdown of 2008.
Yeah.
Remember that? And
Yes.
2009, when everybody lost all their money, and
That's right.
Lehman shock, we called it in Japan. Well, I had been sitting there not doing anything to sell anything for about a year. Okay, already, maybe a year and a half. Let's say a year and a half, because from the time mom got sick, I was completely preoccupied with that. So I go into global financial meltdown super weak. I lose all my employees except for one. I have to retreat from my office, my beautiful office in Tokyo, to a small apartment right next to my apartment where I lived, to survive, to cut the rent cost. And I was just going through the motions. It's amazing I could even do anything. But in a way, having to turn my attention so abruptly and so intensely from one thing that was terrible to another thing that was terrible was a good thing. If that makes sense.
It does.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I didn't really have time to think about much. I had time to process and do things. And work and busyness has always kind of been one of my go-tos. When I'm stressed out, I just dig in and go for it. And it's a little psychotic, but at least it's
I respect that.
Well, it's not damaging. It's not damaging me in some ways. It's damaging me in other ways, but that's okay.
Right.
You take what you can get, right?
Yeah.
And I think, I rebuilt the business. And then in 2011, remember, that's only about literally, let's see, mom died in fall of 2008. So 9, 10, you have 2.5 years later, after I'd rebuilt the business, had a few employees back, we had the earthquake in Japan, the triple, the tsunami and the meltdown earthquake. So then I had to do it again. I tell you, I had to rebuild my business twice. I was so exhausted, but again, I believe it was a good conduit for my energy and my grief. And so I really felt that I didn't start kind of snapping back. It might have even taken, it was at least 5 years. It might have been 7. I don't know. It's been 14 years now, and I'm still not over it, but I don't think I'll ever be over it. And that's fine with me. But like a lot of things in our minds, they soften over time, and they get softer edges on them, and they have different lessons too, right? Over time, right? You kind of learn different things from all the things that you've been through, even later. And so for me, let's say I just had to jump into save my ass mode. I'm just gonna say
Like
it out loud. And then I kind of feel like the first book gave me a lot of peace, actually. But the first book came out 10 years after mom passed away.
Yeah.
You know, and it didn't take me that long to write it, but it took me that long to process and get to that. So I think for me now, I just feel really grateful for the experience because I think it made me a better person, actually. I think it made me more compassionate. It made me more interested to understand this area of life that is part of life. Death is part of life. And I think it made me more courageous about that somehow. And helping anyone else, even one person, to do it a little bit better or a little bit easier is something that gives me some peace.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
You know, so I had mentioned, we said that this could go on for like ever. And so I'm going to say this, I'm going to pause us here and say, we're going to have Debbie come back because Debbie's going to have made a transition at some point. You just said it took you 10 years to write the first book, and then you have another book, and then you have a business where you're working with businesses, and that in itself. So it's really what you take from that experience, grow from it. So we're going to do another episode with Debbie to talk about how do you take that and how do you support others. But I want to ask a couple of sister questions. And the sister questions are fun. So we're going to do that. So like I said, we'll bring you back. But Jay, do you want to start with the first sister question?
I love sister questions.
I love sister questions.
So one thing that you wish you had known when you started your caregiving journey.
Good one.
That
Jay.
you know now. One thing you wish you had asked or
Good
wish
question.
you had known.
Okay. I will tell you one thing. When I started caregiving, I did not even know the term caregiver.
True.
And I never even called myself a caregiver until about 5 years after. And so that was one thing. But I wish I had known there were caregiver coaches, that I could hire a coach, just like you can hire an executive coach if you're for your career, or a therapist, or I didn't know. And at that point, back in 2008, there were, but there weren't that many of them. And so if I could have found, if I had known about it, and I would have made myself afford it, because I made myself afford therapy because I needed therapy.
Yeah.
Preach.
And I think every caregiver, if they can, should have some kind of counseling, and there are free versions if you can't pay for it. But there are support groups, and there are things out there that we can use and tap into that I really was not aware of back in 2008. And remember, I had been living in Japan for 24 years. So when I came back to the States, I had no idea what was going on here. You know, I would fly in and fly out. So there was less in 2008, but there was more than I knew about. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. We'll actually put some information in the show notes about coaches and things like that, because I think that's really important. That's a great resource. I think you're completely right.
There's a lot of resources out there.
I think the first thing every caregiver should do is get a coach and buy a package of 3 to 5 whatever it is, whatever the packages are. Just go and get somebody else's opinion, because you really lose your objectivity as well. I think when it's like you're in this dark tunnel and you're doing the best you can and you're doing everything you can, but maybe you just didn't think about this one easy thing like daughterhood groups.
Exactly.
Area. You know, one magic little thing like that could really, really help someone.
Yeah.
Miss Emmy.
Oh, yes. This one might not be a sister question, but I'm just going to ask because I personally want to know. You briefly touched on self-care, about walking and doing some other exercises. What was a big thing that helped you the most, that kept your sanity? I feel like sometimes all of us are like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Am I going to make this? Like, what was the big thing that helped you the most?
Okay, my favorite thing, and I am a bit of a self-care expert now. I'm a self-proclaimed self-care expert because I really believe in it and I live it. I'm actually running a free 1 month challenge every January. This is
Right.
the fifth one right now. So my favorite one for me, and I did really well, I believe, on my self-care when I was caregiving. My favorite one was it was a relaxation technique at night to help you go to sleep. You put an audio on, and you can use a Calm app, has some great things. But I had one from my old yoga days, and you start at the tips of your toes, and you relax your tips of your toes, and you come all the way up the top of your body. You relax once again, and if you aren't completely relaxed by then, you start over again. And usually I'll be asleep by the time I get to the top of my head because I'm the captain of the Olympic sleeping team.
Oh, I want to be under that.
Yeah, I'm so lucky that way. But honestly, I needed that at night because I would lay down at night. My head would just be spinning with all the things that I did or didn't do, what I had to do the next day. And Emily, I know you know this territory so well. And I just couldn't turn my brain off. And you know, some of us in regular life might use wine, but you can't drink too much wine when you're caregiving because you won't be able to get up in the middle of the night for the emergency. So I was really careful about my wine intake, right? And I didn't ever have more than 2 glasses because I was too afraid to impair myself.
Right.
As the person in charge, you know, like
that's very responsible. I mean, you know, Katie Norton has Norton has Wine Women and Dementia.
I love that.
Oh my goodness, people. We're throwing out Kitty's name on this because she's got a really cool documentary coming out.
It's a wonderful
and it's so
documentary.
good. I wonder I want to ask her one day. We're going to have her on the show. We're going to ask her about her wine consumption. So
well, how much Kitty will admit that that sometimes there was too much involved, but I know that for me that sleep technique, getting to sleep at night, that relaxation technique worked really, really well.
Right.
And sometimes I would supercharge that with aromatherapy, like
lavender. That's a good idea.
That is good.
That's an excellent idea.
Yeah, just put it on your pajama sleeve, and then you have it right there.
Yeah, nice. Lavender is good for sleeping, and actually orange citrus is good for elevating your mood. So you'll feel better if you smell orange. And so it's actually something that's just an FYI. So my last
all
question
throughout the house.
Right. Also just leaving the evil spirits. But okay, this is the favorite sister question. I'm selfish. I get to do it. And then Jay, you can take over. Debbie, what is your guilty pleasure?
Oh gosh.
Your favorite guilty pleasure.
This is going to be really terrible. It's different now than it was then. Do I answer for then or
whichever you want?
Or both.
Okay. You can do both. We support it.
Okay, now it's Outlander.
Oh,
yes! Outlander series.
Yes.
You have my heart.
Yeah, I can watch that. My little sister and I say the answer to any question, no matter what it is more Jamie.
Oh my gosh. And Claire. I mean, this could be a whole podcast about Jamie and Claire.
Oh God,
yes.
That is absolutely my guilty pleasure now.
And
if it had been on then, it would have been.
Yeah.
It just wasn't available back then.
Got it.
There were a few little TV shows. I can't even tell you the one that I thought was really funny because it would be too embarrassing to me as a girl. It's really like.
Now my go-to if I want a good laugh is Schitt's Creek. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Always that'll pull me out of any sort of down, mood. It's just to get on there and watch that and just laugh.
Moira's fantastic.
Yeah. So we are definitely gonna hashtag Outlander. We may be able to, I don't know, get them to visit your house, Debbie. I don't know. That's our goal.
My gosh,
I don't know.
Jamie were to come to your house.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I know that's not the same,
it
but
would
we're
be
going to
the
go in
pinnacle
character.
of my life. It would be-
Oh my gosh. Okay, JJ, we're going to do it. We're
Okay.
tagging it.
We're hashtagging them.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
So-
all right, Debbie,
and
we cannot.
if it weren't something like Outlander, then I would, honest to God, back then, before Outlander, something like Andy Griffith, you
Okay.
know, or
Yes.
something
it's a
really Leave
throwback.
It to Beaver, something simple and
Yeah.
fun and happy, and just something that would take you away a little bit.
Absolutely.
And I feel embarrassed to say that TV is my guilty pleasure, but honestly, sometimes
Oh,
you got to change your mood really fast.
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And something like that can just get you out of it.
Debbie, we were, Jason and I were Yellowstone when we were in New York.
Yeah.
Yellowstone
Okay.
was, and then 1883, we watched the whole
Nice.
You know what? I'm going to tell you this. Thank you, Netflix. And thank you, Amazon Prime, for having television, because it's a form of escapism, and you don't have to be faced with the ugly, nasty, you've got cancer. So you can control what you're watching.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
It's true. And we would bring in movies sometimes. And, one of the saddest things my mom said to me, we saw the previews, and we used to watch movies all the time. And I would go rent them. And those were the days when you would go and rent them.
That's right.
I remember there was one, we saw the preview on TV, and it was an Emma Thompson movie. And my mother said, "Oh, I'm not going to get to see that."
Oh,
And it was so sad, and we knew it. We knew that she probably was not going to get to see that. But it was something that we loved to do together,
Yeah.
and like you said, something you can do together till the very
right.
end,
Right.
and control it.
Right.
Yeah, I love it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we are hoping that Outlander will give us a call just to make your
Jamie, come in
dream come true, Debbie.
costume.
I'm gonna
We're doing
work
it.
my best, and so we want to thank Debbie so much for joining us today, and thank our guest for tagging in and listening. We're going to have Debbie back to learn more about the many things that she is into, especially some. I'll give a little hint. She is into some crazy, interesting technology stuff. So you're going to have to tune back in to hear more about Debbie. But thank Debbie for joining us, and
Thank you, Debbie.
Thanks to all of our listeners for being here today.
All right. Have a great day. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. It was great.